Hey, welcome back. So, I guess I have more religious stuff today. What are you gonna do? It's alright. I forget what the other chapter is in that book that I'm reading. I'm reading a book, 20 Christian Values or whatever. And I talked about number 12 yesterday. But number 10, I forget what it's called. I don't know. It's not really important, but just the idea that I don't know that this. I don't know. This doesn't really. I mean, I'm past this point. Like, I don't take the Bible literally. But it's kind of hard for a Christian to say that because most Christians do. And part of this book, they always say, like, you gotta take the Bible literally. Everything that happened literally happened. And it's God's words. I don't believe that, but I still struggle with it because most other Christians do believe it. So I kind of feel like, well, am I really a Christian if I don't believe it? The literalness of the Bible, it doesn't pass the smell test or whatever for me. When I look at the stories in the Bible, they're all good and I like them, mostly. The Old Testament, but they just remind me of stories that people have told throughout history. And you could say, well, they're all the stories are like connected, like there is, but they're just kind of telling different versions of it. But they're all kind of looking towards the same unknowable power of the universe or whatever. But if that's true, then the Bible is, like, I can accept that, but then that means that the Bible isn't literally true, because if you believe the Bible is literally true, then all the other things, all the other stories have to not be true, because they kind of contradict the Bible. Literally, they contradict it. But, like, literally, these... I think it was talking about Jesus and how... This is bad. I can't say this as a Christian, but, like, Jesus died. He went to heaven and he came back. The thing that stuck with me in the book, I remember he said, when Jesus came back, his body was perfect. He was immortal. Like, you couldn't hurt him. He was a perfect being at that point when he came back. It just felt very fantastical to me, and just like a kid's story about, like, oh, he's Superman and he comes back and you can't shoot him with a bullet because he's perfect. It just doesn't pass the smell test, I guess. It's hard for me to get past that. It was, like, literally true. You can talk all day about the spiritualness, about, like, there's a spiritual component to humans, and, like, we're connected to our unknowable force of the universe. But when you're like, there's a dude in heaven and he made Earth 4,000 years ago, I just can't. And when Christianity's telling you, this is what I want to tell to make the moon. I would say to the church, like the modern church, it's a weird discussion. I would say you're losing a lot of potential Christians because you're saying you have to believe in stuff that's kind of silly to be a Christian. And then the church would say something like, well, you just want us to believe whatever, and, like, anything goes. Like, if we don't have the Bible to be literally true, then what are we even doing here? What's the purpose? Like, what's our foundation? And I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. But I'm like, the foundation is metaphorical I know that's harder. Like, you want your foundation to be literal. Okay, God created the earth, and he created me, and this is a firm foundation. And if you're like, oh, God is like a spiritual, universal thing, that's like a shaky foundation. But I don't know. If the firm foundation isn't like a real... This is an interesting conversation. I don't know. I'm getting lost in my own metaphorical foundation, metaphor, and analogy. Your foundation isn't real either. It is still just in your head. Because you can never know 100% that God is real. You can't. So your foundation, it's real to you. I don't know how to make this metaphor, but it's like your foundation is real to you, which makes it real. Like, if you believe that God is real and you have a purpose, that really helps you on earth. It does. I know people, they're Christians, and like someone dies and they're like, God helped me through it because I believe that he's real and I'll see my family again. That's real for you, and it really helped you in a real way. But that doesn't mean that God's really real. Because you can't know if he is. And so the fact that those people, I don't know, they're able to kind of ignore that somehow. And be like, well, yeah, he's real. I believe it. But for me, there's always a part of me that's like, okay, I believe God's real, but I know it's impossible to know if he is real or not. So my foundation can never be as firm as theirs. It can only ever be... So what I have to do is I have to make my shaky foundation, but I gotta firm it up. I can't rely on the firm foundation of just believing God is real. I have to have the foundation of maybe God isn't real, and I just gotta find a way to make this foundation firmer in my own way, and not just give 100% over to blind faith, because it's impossible to do. I don't know. If I was able to do it, I would be happier, 100%. Less stress. Oh yeah, God's real. Jesus is real. That's a less stressful life, but it's hard to give yourself over to that thought. Because you can't 100% know. And I know it's pretentious to say this, but it is kind of like, well, I do have a little bit more of a logical brain. I don't know, it's a less spiritual, and it's more like, I need to see to believe, I guess. And a Christian would maybe say, like, whoa, don't you see the trees and you don't believe? Like, yeah, come on, that's not proof of anything. When I look at the trees, I believe God is real. Trees could exist without God. It's just a lack of imagination, like Tolstoy would say. I can imagine a universe where trees exist and God doesn't exist. So that means it's possible for God to not exist. But I'm still a Christian, and I want to believe. I want to believe. I've been watching the X-Files. I'll believe it because I'm a Christian, and belief doesn't take anything, but at the same time, I'm also like, it's kind of dumb. Belief, to be a Christian and to be a believer, it doesn't take much. You just have to tell yourself, like, okay, I'm a Christian and I believe in Jesus. That's it. You're allowed to have doubts, too. In Christianity, you're allowed to doubt once in a while and be like, oh, maybe Jesus didn't exist. Like, that's part of it. Everybody doubts sometimes. You're not less of a Christian for doubting. A good Christian would tell you that. So I can still be a Christian and doubt and just be like, okay, yeah, I believe. Right now, I can tell you, I believe Jesus. And sometimes if I think about it, I'm like, oh, sure, yeah, Jesus can exist. Why not? And then sometimes when I think about it more, I'm like, oh, that doesn't make sense. Why would Jesus exist? I'm kind of using Jesus and God interchangeably, but as a Christian, you can kind of do that. So. But yeah, I had another religion note. That was my note about how, like, it's kind of hard for me. I just feel like, I don't know, all the other people are kind of brainwashing themselves to be like, yeah, I know it sounds dumb, but, like, just believe it. Don't question it, just believe it. I had a point about, like, the modern church should, I don't know, if they could just embrace the unknowableness of it and stop being so literal. I'm sure there are churches that are like that, and I kind of want to find that church. There needs to be a church for people like me, like, because most churches are for people who aren't like me. And I understand that it's really helpful if you 100% believe in God and you take the Bible literally. It is helpful for you in your life. So if you go to church and they're kind of reinforcing that, then it helps a certain kind of person, but it doesn't help people like me, because we'll always be like, no, it's not literal. It can't be. It doesn't make sense. So for people like me, if the only church that exists are the literal church, then I'm never going to go to church, because I'm not going to believe what they believe. So there needs to be, if Christianity wants to, like, expand or whatever, there needs to be churches for people like me, who are like, you want to be a Christian, but you don't want to be so literal all the time. I don't know. It sounds bad. I know most Christians would be angry at me when I say that. But they should be happy, like, I still want to be a Christian. I'm not... Most people, when they get in my situation, they're like, oh, Christianity's dumb, so I'm just going to leave. But I don't want to do that. So Christianity, like, they should welcome people like me, because maybe even people like me could reach more people. You have enough people who are reaching the people who are spiritually inclined. The only other people you're going to reach are the people who have terrible lives, and then all of a sudden, like, some miracle happens to them. And then, okay, they're going to believe because a miracle happened. But what about people like me? I don't know. So what's my other note? I gotta get off this note. Hold on. Let's just, yeah, well, I got a couple minutes. Yeah, I want to just do this note real quick. Modern Christianity be like social progress for the last 4,000 years is good, but everything for the past 30 years is bad. I don't know. I was just thinking about this in relation to gay stuff. I always have a problem with it because throughout history, I mean, I'm not a historian, so I don't know, but, like, throughout history, there's been social progress. Oh, women voting and women working and, I don't know. There's been social progress throughout the past 4,000 years. So, a modern Christian would say, a traditionalist or whatever would say, oh yeah, all that progress is good. Women voting is good. Women doing all the stuff is good. But all the progress we've made for the past 30 years is bad. Like, come on. People respecting gay people or whatever. And I know some social progress, it's possible for it to be bad. But it does seem kind of silly when you view it in that context of, like, you're just being a traditionalist. And there's been, for 4,000 years, there have been traditionalists of people being like, oh, slavery shouldn't be a thing, or slavery should be a thing because it's been a thing forever, and all people just want to change everything all the time. But, like, it says in the Bible, curse of Ham. And, like, oh, women shouldn't work because, oh, look in the Bible, women are supposed to be nurturers and they're not supposed to work. But now most Christians would be like, oh yeah, working's fine. If you're a woman, why wouldn't you be able to work? God wants you to work. So I try to always have that perspective of, like, if something new happens, don't immediately dismiss it and be like, oh, well, the way we always did it was the right way. Gay people should never be allowed to be happy. Because they were never allowed to be happy before, and we were fine before. But gay marriage, I don't get it. I don't get why modern Christians are so stubborn about, like, people who love each other not being allowed to love each other. It seems so crazy. It seems like an obvious villainous moment. Like, I guess I can understand because it says in the Bible being gay is bad or whatever, but the moment you stop, the moment you're at the point where you have to stop gay people from loving each other, that's where it's like, okay, yeah, you're obviously the villain in this situation. How is it your right to tell gay people they can't be together? That'd be, I don't know. It seems crazy to me. But, 'cause I said so, right? Well, I guess that's it for today. I'll finish this tomorrow. It's a weird note to end on, but... just be nice, I guess. Okay, see you tomorrow. Bye.